We've still got a lot of offseason to go, and the trade action isn't going to happen in the NFL for a few more weeks. But wouldn't it be fun to imagine which teams are going to land these big name stars that are reportedly on the block? Let's figure out where some of these players, like Cooper Cup and others, are going to be playing in 2025 because they might not be with the same teams. Now, we still have one more game left in this NFL season. It's the big game, as you know. And remember that Underdog is the place to play if you're a fan looking to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Underdog is now available in over 30 states, including Missouri, California, and Texas. Call your shots for the big game by picking higher or lower on two or more player stats for a shot to win real money. And Underdog is celebrating the big game by giving everyone a no sweat entry, which means you can either cash in or get your entry fee back in bonus credit. So if you haven't yet, join Underdog before the big game kicks off. Just sign up using code NGAME when you check out, and you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use when you make your first deposit plus a free pick. But we're already looking ahead to next season, mock drafts, all this stuff that is going to be way too far away. But look, there's already talk about which players are going to be on the move, and you might have heard Cooper Cup. He's getting traded whether he wants to or not. It doesn't sound like he wants to, but they're moving on. Let's see if it happens. If it does, Chris, where does he wind up?
Well, this sounds like it's almost certainly going to happen. I mean, I guess the Rams have already told him, hey, we're going to trade you this offseason, which certainly makes a lot of sense for the Rams, and I do think it's going to happen. And I'm going to say he's going to come to my Washington Commanders. We've already seen the Commanders are a team that aren't scared of these veteran players. I mean, Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, these guys had big roles last year. And Cooper Kupp, no, he's not as good as he was when he, won the Triple Crown a couple of years ago, but he's still an effective player, and he would give Jaden Daniels another weapon. I feel like Cliff Kingsbury and this offense really has been looking for that slot weapon. It was Zach Ertz this year, but I think they feel like they can do better with Cooper Kupp. So I think Cooper Kupp is going to be a relatively low-risk investment in terms of what it's going to take to get him for a team like the Commanders, who we know are actually in a Super Bowl window somehow right now. So I think Cooper Kupp will be wearing the burgundy and gold in 2025.
A team that's always in the Super Bowl window, but just can't make it because, well, the Chiefs are just standing in the way. They need to do something to get over the hump. That's why I think the Buffalo Bills actually make a lot of sense. Now, receiver was not really their strong suit last year. They got the quarterback. They have a really good running game. Defense was pretty good. They just need something else. And we saw in the closing minutes of that AFC Championship game, they just really couldn't put together the drives they needed, and some questionable decision making. I don't really mean by Josh Allen. I really mean more so by the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, as to who they're targeting and the plays that we're running. If you have a guy like Cooper Kupp, who is known to be very reliable and pretty easy to find across the middle of the field, that might make Josh Allen's decision making a little bit easier. Khalil Shakir was pretty good. In fact, he was the best receiver for the Bills last year. But come on, they need an upgrade somewhere, and it just makes a lot of sense. And it's not as if either of those guys have to play 100% of the time in the slot, okay? They can both move back and forth across the field. I don't think Shakir is going to block them from getting a guy like Kupp. So it just makes sense for the Bills. I feel like they need to do something, and they're probably getting desperate here, and they're going to do something like this. Now, you'd think if somebody's definitely getting traded, it should be Kirk Cousins, who lost his job to a rookie quarterback last year. And there are enough teams that need a quarterback, and there's really not that many great quarterbacks coming in the draft this year. Someone's going to pay up to get Kirk Cousins and trade up to get him, but who will it be?
I agree. Someone is going to pay up and trade up to get him, and I think it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, who saw their potential, having one of the top picks go by the wayside down the stretch. Now they have the number 7 pick, so probably not going to get one of those quarterbacks. This just feels like a Raiders type of move. Like, go get a guy like Kirk Cousins with the name who they can sell their fans on. Like, hey, Kirk Cousins, if he's healthy, because right now we're hearing he came out and said, like, in week 10 he hurt his shoulder and his elbow, and that's when he started to struggle. So if he's healthy, this guy can get us over the hump, can get us to the playoffs. I think the Raiders are going to be the team that's going to pull the trigger and go get Kirk Cousins.
I mean, you're absolutely right. The Raiders, of course, need a quarterback and probably won't get one of the top guys in the draft. But I'm going to say they go in a different direction, which we'll cover in our free agent breakdown. I think that the Jets are basically going to move from one crusty veteran quarterback who can only stay in the pocket to another one in Kirk Cousins, because the Jets really don't need much more than somebody who can manage the game and not make mistakes. So actually, maybe Kirk Cousins doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think they'll feel like they can revive him because they've got the weapons with Garrett Wilson on the outside. Who knows about Devontae Adams? But really, they just need a veteran. They don't want to start over with another draft pick at quarterback. Not that they really have the capital to get one, anyways. I just think this makes sense, even though Jets fans might not love it. That's what I'm feeling. So that leads us to Aaron Rodgers. Needless to say, things did not go great last year for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So where does that leave him?
I'm going to say it leaves him out of the NFL. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to announce his retirement this year. Why keep playing for Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he had some moments down the stretch when it was basically garbage time on the season, but come on, this guy isn't the same guy. I think he understands he's not the same guy, and he could probably just be on the Pat McAfee show every week for the rest of his life if he wants to. So why keep playing football? I think he retires.
Well, that's probably what he should do. I'm going to, kind of go with an outside the box answer here. Dallas Cowboys. That's right. Dallas Cowboys, because if you think about it, this is great for him. Huge market, the exposure, right? He gets to play for a famed franchise. And Jerry Jones is just crazy enough he'll do it, because even though Dak is still the quarterback there, he wants a reliable backup, and he just wouldn't mind having more, of the media circus. He doesn't care about that. He loves it. And so he can be the backup there, the veteran presence, and, he'll kind of twist this that, Aaron Rodgers will be like a coach on the side and whatever. It's just so weird that I think it'll happen. So what does that mean for Jets receiver Garrett Wilson?
Well, if Aaron Rodgers does in fact retire, or if the Jets release them and then no team goes after him and he, is forced to retire, I guess, that means Garrett Wilson's happy again and he's still a Jet. Yeah, I know I'm going boring here, but I think that's what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is either going to retire or they're going to release him, and then Garrett Wilson is going to say, okay, I'm fine remaining the Jet.
Exactly. I think Garrett Wilson is still a Jet because I think Aaron Rodgers isn't. I mean, sure, he's unhappy, he wanted out because of Aaron Rodgers. Problem solved. New head coach already in town. He's whoever they get at quarterback. Honestly, I think as long as it's not Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson will be fine and he'll stay where he is. Now, a real interesting name that is definitely up for grabs is Deebo Samuel. After getting paid, well, now he's still not the highest paid receiver for the 49ers. And then Juwan Jennings looked better than both Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. So where does that leave Deebo?
I think Deebo is going to get traded. I think the 49ers are going to move on from Deebo this offseason. They almost did a couple years ago. I think it's going to happen this year. And I think he's going to go play with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. I feel like he's a guy that Mike Tomlin would want on his team, right? A player who can do more than just be a wide receiver. And yeah, I guess he's a little bit of a diva here and there, but much less of a diva than the wide receiver they have at the moment. So I think Tomlin goes out and gets Deebo Samuel.
Well, that would definitely help them. They're a team that needs another weapon, but a team that suddenly we thought was going to be great at receiver going into last season needs a weapon is the Texans, because we know Stephon Diggs might not be back. He's in free agent again. And Tank Dell probably not even going to play at all next year. So why not go out and get a guy who could be that weapon in Deebo Samuel? I mean, they already got some veterans there, and I think he would fit in. CJ Stroud is going to try to campaign to get somebody, some help, and I think the team knows that he needs some more help after last season. So Deebo to me seems like a logical fit. I don't know, honestly, how that works as far as cap-wise and all this, but look, if they're shedding Diggs' salary, surely they can bring Deebo on. Now, if you think Deebo is going to Pittsburgh, that tells me you think George Pickens, who is rumored to be on the block, might be on his way out.
Yep, I think the first thing they do is they trade for Deebo Samuel, and then that frees them up to move George Pickens, and I think a team like the Carolina Panthers shoot their shot on George Pickens. Bryce Young showed, the second half of last year that he can be that franchise QB. I know they have young wide receivers like Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, but I don't know if they're 100% sold on those guys. George Pickens, yes, you have to deal with the drama, with the attitude, but he's shown that on the field this guy can perform, and I think the Panthers will take a chance on him, pair him with young QB Bryce Young, and hope it works out.
Pickens may be on the move, but I'm going to say for right now, I honestly struggle with this one. I can't find a real logical fit that I think makes sense for both sides. So I'm just going to say Pickens stays a Steeler. I mean, has there even been a season where Mike Tomlin didn't deal with a diva receiver? He's used to it. I'm sure he's frustrated. He's tired of it, but I think Pickens is still the best weapon they've got. So I'll say he stays put. And we don't see a lot of running backs get traded necessarily, but one player who could be on the move is Travis Etienne, of course, coming off a very disappointing. All right, he was a bust. All right, he was just a massive bust last year. So, do the Jags move on, and who wants to take him on? If so,
That's the issue here. I think even if the Jags want to shop him, want to try to trade him, I don't think they're going to get anything worth giving up Travis Etienne. So I think he's just going to be a Jaguar again next year. I mean, he's not getting paid like a crazy amount of money. I think he's like a $6.5 million cap hit, which is not a big deal these days. But again, he was not great last year. I mean, what are you really getting for Travis Etienne right now that makes it worth even moving on from him? I think the Jags will try, but won't find anybody or find a deal worth taking, and he'll just be on the Jaguars again next year.
he definitely could stay. But if he does move, which it would be in the Jags' best interest to do it because Tank Bigsby was better than Etienne last year. Look, there's some teams that want a 1-2 punch at running back. How about the Bears? I mean, the running game really wasn't that great last year. Remember, you have a new head coach, an offensive guru, supposedly, and Ben Johnson, and a running backs coach, Eric Bieniemy, former running back and former OC. You might remember for the Chiefs. I think they're really going to try to stockpile at running back, kind of like they did last year at receiver. So, to me, the Bears, if he goes anywhere, would be the natural fit. And we saved potentially the most interesting one for last. You know, at the very end of the last season, Tyreek Hill was done, like just mentally done. He said, I'm out. See you later. Peace. He can't just leave on his own. He would need to get shipped off somewhere. Does it happen?
I don't think it happens. It sounds like he's kind of backed off that a little bit. Obviously, emotions calm down. And now he's talking about the Dolphins need to add more dogs to the roster. So, yeah, I think he's going to be back. Like, where is he really going to go? What are they really going to get for a 31-year-old Tyreek Hill right now who's coming off arguably the worst season of his entire career? Doesn't really make sense to trade him. I think they run it back with this team one more time this year.
Exactly. Been saying it since that happened. This is just him being emotional, talking, not thinking about it. Remember, he's the one who engineered this whole trade to Miami. That's where he wants to be. And so, I mean, sure, you can be upset that you didn't make the playoffs, but I think he'll be fine. I think he stays. It's never too early to look ahead to next season. So think about this. Who will be the top 10 running backs in 2025 to help you win this year? Well, check it out.